Good day, good afternoon, Lisbon, ISACA Lisbon. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Of course, I would have liked to be there in person, but it is what it is. So I wanted to talk to you about successfully navigating cybersecurity. So strategies for charting a successful route through stormy waters in the new world of COVID-19 and beyond. So before I kick off, just a bit about myself. I'm a long-time ISACA volunteer. I've been to Lisbon several times now speaking at your conferences, so I'm delighted to be back. But of course, as I said, I would prefer to be there in person. So what are we going to talk about today? Really give you an idea, I guess, run through some of the challenges that businesses are facing now, both from a cybersecurity threat perspective, but also some of those technology challenges that we're seeing out there, and particularly in the COVID era. So really, the session is going to explore major cyber-related challenges, and then also look at strategies that businesses should be deploying to ensure that they follow a risk-based, business-centric approach to cybersecurity. So what are we seeing? What are we hearing business leaders out there saying about cybersecurity? I mean, unlike maybe 5-10 years ago when cybersecurity was very new on the board agenda, I think boards get it now, senior management get it, they understand that it's an issue, but what they really struggle with is to understand whether they're doing enough and to know what exactly they should be doing with it, particularly in the era of COVID-19. So this session, we're going to explore a little bit more on that. Before we do go into the business strategies, let's just go and look at some of these challenges that businesses are facing today. And this is going to be a bit of a roller coaster ride. So please do fasten your seatbelts. I'm going to go through these reasonably quickly because I do want to get on onto COVID-19 and the challenges, and the strategies that business should be deploying. So very much a juggling act. Organizations are facing rapid, relentless push to innovate and disrupt. We're seeing fintechs out there chomping at their heels. The businesses do need to innovate and ensure that they are embracing this rapid pace of digital transformation. There's a lot of change going on out there. And one of the areas that are complex is these supply chain and business alliances. Aligned with that is a rapid growth and convergence of cybercrime and geopolitics. And of course, we see these innovative, well-resourced and motivated threat actors. And they don't all look like that with hoodies. Some of them actually, we still have innovative, well-resourced and motivated threat actors. Those cyber criminals had a lot of resources at their disposal and they're coming at you. And of course, we've seen this, over a number of years now, the decriminalization of networks. We no longer have that protective, closed, siloed approach to our networks. Everybody wants to be connected everywhere. And aligned with that is the rapid adoption of mobile technologies. Everybody is now connecting into the office from various mobile technologies. They want to be able to do it, from the hotel room, when we're traveling again, that is. But the rapid adoption of mobile technologies, another complex challenge that organizations are having to deal with. And of course, aligned with that is the mobile workforce, and we've seen that play out quite significantly in the last 10 months or so with COVID-19. I'm going to talk a bit more in detail about COVID-19 in a moment, but of course, we now have to be able to support the mobile workforce as well. And of course, aligned with that is the cloud adoption. Everybody wants to move to the cloud, and there are issues, but also opportunities in that space. And of course, we're recognizing GDPR, but many other complex data protection laws and regulations around the world. Businesses have to be able to deal with that, have to be ready and complying with these data protection laws. And it's almost a perfect storm because with all these challenges, we're also seeing this global shortage of skilled cybersecurity workforce, another challenge that business has to deal with. And of course, we're still relying in some cases on these legacy technologies. I mean, there are still mainframes out there, there's still COBOL out there. Some of these systems are still running on legacy technologies. We need to be able to incorporate them into our own organizations as well and ensure that they're secure. And then businesses are really suffering from this overwhelming sense of security awareness and fatigue I think we're a bit guilty of using this FUD factor, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. There is always a place for that, but I think we have to be careful not to overuse it. And then we see these emerging technologies coming along, things like artificial intelligence, huge opportunities. But unfortunately, the cyber criminals, those bad actors, are also using these against the organizations. So another emerging technology should be on the strategic plans for any organization. And of course, we're seeing these wonderful autonomous vehicles rolling out as well now, potentially. And just a kind of heads up that it creates a significant attack vector as well, bringing with it lots of advantages. But again, there are security issues with autonomous vehicles. And of course, aligned with artificial intelligence, or a subset of that is robotics and machine learning. Again, wonderful opportunities arising from that. And not to forget about Internet of Things. Again, we all have these Internet of Things devices now, but they need to be secure. So they give us a lot of opportunities, but also there's some risks attached to this. And not forgetting 5G. So we're seeing the rollout of 5G, which brings significant opportunities in terms of machine-to-machine connectivity, in terms of capabilities, but there are security implications with 5G as well. Again, all these technologies we're talking about give us opportunities for adopting smart cities. Cities or countries like Singapore are ahead of the curve here, but it's rolling out at a city near you. So be ready for it. In fact, it's happening already. And of course, distributed ledger or blockchain technologies, again, great opportunities. If you're not doing it, guess what? Your competitors are probably working in this space, which is giving them significant advantages. So you should be looking at that as well. And then, of course, if you're operating, if you have operational technologies, and not all financial services, for example, may have limited operational technologies, probably around their building systems. But again, organizations are really having to cope with this new threat vector potentially when they start connecting OT to IT and enterprise systems. And all along with all of this, there's a lot of more data out there. So we want to embrace big data analytics and exploit the opportunities that it brings to our businesses in searching out new markets, searching out new products, searching out new services. But again, there are potential risks that need to be managed around that as well. And things like drones and unmanned aerial vehicles, again, bring great opportunities, but we need to be able to assess and understand the risks around those too. So loads of these new technologies, new ways of working, for example, like DevOps. And these are all things that are on board agendas and strategic plans, business development. They're all looking at embracing these new technologies, but there are risks and threats involved in all of those technologies. And then of course, further down, just around the corner, probably quantum computing. So again, need to understand the impact that may have on our businesses. And just when we think we're on top of it and we've carefully considered these challenges and we're working very hard to embrace these new technologies, guess what? Yes, you've guessed correctly. Along comes COVID-19. So who could ever have predicted how 2020 would turn out? The entire world has been shocked to its roots with the COVID-19 pandemic. No one has experienced anything like this before. The speed of spreading of the coronavirus has wrong-footed governments and scientists around the world, and the reactions taken to combat the virus have been decisive and severe. People around the globe have had to make huge sacrifices. Some, sadly, have had to make the ultimate sacrifice as the death rates continue to rise. And whilst an end is now, it seems to be in sight with recent positive news around vaccines. Many countries are still experiencing some of the worst times they've seen during the pandemic. Amidst this doomsday scenario, life has had to go on. Corporations, governments, educators, and many other organizations, and the general public have had to adjust and make radical changes to their everyday lives. And that includes all of us. We hear of the new or next normal. Whatever it is, life will not be the same again. And as we reflect on this nightmare of 2020, it's clear that people are very adaptable and can respond to change. Nowhere is this change more evident than in the work environment. with truly little notice, we've all had to learn to work in new and innovative new ways. Thankfully, recent advances in technology has allowed many workers to stay fully productive working remotely. And in fact, a large number of organizations already had quite well-established remote working practices and solutions. However, some organizations were forced very quickly to embrace these new ways of working. But thankfully, due to the availability of mature and secure networking solutions, video conferencing technology, project management software, and other collaboration tools and applications have helped this significantly. However, the cyber criminals have not been slow to react. Unfortunately, the bad actors have seized on the pandemic as what seems to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to significantly increase their efforts to defraud the public and organizations. In a way, the task has been easy in putting together these new and treacherous scams, particularly in phishing attacks, as more people are shopping online and taking home deliveries, and people are anxious and hungry for new information about COVID-19 related topics, things like, vaccines, face masks, hand sanitizers. We are therefore seeing a significant uptick of cyber criminal activity, exploiting the coronavirus outbreak for their own personal gain, sadly. So attacks, including those from state-sponsored hackers, also include attempts to breach information about potential vaccines being produced, and bogus emails claiming to be from health authorities providing important information or updates about vaccines. It is sad and alarming to say that it's expected that the frequency of coronavirus-related cyber attacks will increase over the coming weeks and months, especially as many countries are experiencing new spikes and more severe lockdowns. So it's probably a huge understatement to say that the impact of the pandemic has been monumental across so many different industries and disciplines. People working in the governance, assurance, and risk management and cybersecurity space have had an especially important role to play in helping the organizations manage the many different challenges facing them. This has included a whole range of security and assurance-related activities, including risk assessing new connections to support remote working, training users in using remote working tools, cybersecurity hygiene, data handling best practices, and many other control-related areas. Unfortunately, we're all in this together. Many people are possibly going through the toughest times in their lives, and sadly, we're seeing major impacts on people's mental health across all communities. This is a very stark wake-up call and realization that we should really take care of ourselves and each other, which means being kind to one another and treating others with dignity and respect. It's also important that we allow organizations to embrace the changes and exploit the opportunities wherever possible. Creativity and resilience are key for organizations to positively respond to this crisis. In terms of the new ways of working, organizations have demonstrated outstanding agility by rapidly adopting changing business models throughout the pandemic. Many urgent decisions have been taken to adopt to the new normal, and it's not so much a change of an era, but an era of change. Truly a monumental paradigm shift across so many of our lives. However, it's important to remember that the governance, assurance, risk management, and cybersecurity professionals should be ready to defend those decisions that have been taken, over the past 8 to 9 months in the post-pandemic environment. So in the context of this conference, I'd just like to mention that in the post-pandemic world, there'll be an increase in urgent need for more people who can be agile, adaptive, and multi-skilled. People should ensure that they take advantage of these unique times to upskill themselves. And a conference like this, it should really be applauded for creating those opportunities. I'd like to just change gear for a moment to give a special shout out to all those people out there who've been working very hard throughout the pandemic. These are those essential workers, including critical infrastructure workers, that are risking their lives and their health during the coronavirus outbreak. These people are involved in public health and safety, as well as community well-being, and a range of other services. While many of us are being told to stay at home, these workers have a responsibility during the outbreak to continue operations, keep the lights on, potentially putting their lives in danger through contracting COVID-19. Some of these people work behind the scenes without the general public realizing how essential they are to keeping our society functioning. These are the unsung heroes out there, and it goes far beyond the healthcare workers and law enforcement, we tend to think of, but it obviously includes them. So thank you, and we appreciate everything you do to keep us safe. So it goes without saying that the success of today's competitive market relies on importance in investments that organizations put in security. So given the growth and the dynamism and the complexity of the digital ecosystem, it's inevitable that there will be some sufficient security against cyber attacks. And this is where I really just want to touch on some of those key strategies in adopting a business-based approach to cybersecurity. So I want to just look at this through a slightly different lens. And the first, just before we get there, just to play back the reputational damage that a cyber attack does to organizations. So really important that we put enough efforts into our cybersecurity defenses. So it means looking at adopting approaches to cybersecurity that require really direct involvement of senior management. And so some of those focus areas that we need to look at. So I'm going to just run through those 3 key focus areas that we should be looking at embracing. The first one is enterprise integration. So making this part of the fabric of the business decision making. So embed risk decisions and considerations into our enterprise governance apparatus, into our boards, our committees, our management oversight, and establish and use risk committees and make this topic a major part of that. We need to make sure we conduct those risk assessments and establish a risk appetite with particular focus on what level of organization has and where it can accept the risk and authorize exceeding stated appetite. We need to integrate risk considerations into all business processes, especially strategy, business development, capital planning, hiring, promotions, new products, new services, acquisitions, technology investments, and supply chain management. And then the technology integration piece, this is where we make it a core part of how technology is built and operated. So secure products, not just security products. So recognize that the basic and relentless technology controls, the hygiene, the operational disciplines are essential. They won't stop all the attacks, but they'll certainly stop many of those. It's a bit like having, the best security in your road. They'll go to your neighbors. And we need to continuously monitor control effectiveness, presence, and the operation, and strive for ambient controls in preference to expecting employees or customers to be a significant part of our frontline of defense. And then, as part of the final piece on the technology integration, ensure that automated iterative improvement is very much at the heart of technology delivery. So the third pillar here is around resilience and recovery. So plan for failure and constantly exercise and draw. No matter how good your organization is, there'll always be things that go wrong, either because of the adversaries are awesome or more likely because of some mishap or misstep or dependency or complexity. So detect early, respond decisively, formalize accountability, and test constantly. And apply those lessons learned very quickly. And limit the blast radius of the potential events through business and technology processes. Adjustments, for example, data minimization. Find and fix those broken windows. So hygiene issues are absolutely important. But stick to the basics, get the basics right. And integrate cyber and information security incident response into enterprise operational resilience and business continuity plans. So that looking at a slightly different lens there, I'd also just want to look at some of those key fundamental steps that businesses need to embrace to ensure that they're able to manage their cybersecurity risk. The first one is engaging with the business. And this is where tone at the top is absolutely essential. You need to ensure that senior management are involved and they get it and they see that it's their accountability. It's not a business risk. It is a business risk. Secondly, follow a risk-based approach. Identify your crown jewels, understand what your threats are, what your vulnerabilities are, and ensure that your risk approach is aligned with your enterprise risk management. Know your capabilities, understand your people, process, and technologies, identify gaps, consider using or bringing in experts to help you with their gaps on a tactical basis, on a tactical level. Keep abreast of new technologies and changing work environment. Build your response plans. As I mentioned, you will have cyber incidents. Response plans should be robust. And finally, create a culture of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is part of everybody's job and an organizational priority. It's no longer considered to be something that InfoSec or IT does. So just in terms of key takeaways for today, I just want to get back to the fact that cybersecurity should be very much treated as an enterprise risk. It goes beyond just the CEO. Cybersecurity needs to be integrated into the wider range of responsibilities for the board of directors. It's a good idea to appoint a specific board director to focus on cybersecurity, to ensure that it's properly considered. And the board has a key role to building this culture of collaboration in which open and honest information is shared and they're able to react and respond to cybersecurity incidents. Board dashboard is a good idea for ensuring that it's on the board's agenda and regularly discussed, thoroughly discussed. And also remember that cybersecurity is potentially an opportunity as well as a risk. Smart businesses have the opportunity to create new markets and products, grabbing an edge on their competitors. Assurance professionals have a really important part to play in all of this. So what's next? I mean, it's clear that the pandemic has accelerated the use of technology, remote work, and automation. This will have lasting effects on how people live and do their jobs. However, we should not forget about those parts of our society that have suffered the hardest during this pandemic, and those that may be left behind as we come out of it. For example, people in the service sector and low-paid workers. We should really strive to play our part in supporting those communities and workers that are trying to get back to work and back to their lives as normal in this post-pandemic environment we hopefully will be moving into quite soon. So there are likely to be many unique opportunities as we come out of this pandemic. The exact timing of the end of the pandemic is anyone's guess, but what is certain is that things will pass. This pandemic will come to an end. And the result will be an environment that will be rich in possibilities for those who are prepared and can evolve. We need to seize the opportunity to grow and change by integrating lessons learned into the new ways of working. This will enable us to maximize the successful achievement of our collective and individual goals, despite the exceptional environment conditions we find ourselves in. So in closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the ISACA London chapter and the IDC for the opportunity to participate in this conference. And I'd like to wish everybody the very best in keeping safe during these unprecedented times. And I really look forward to a time when I can visit Lisbon again. Hopefully that's not too far away. Thank you very much.